we discussed about CRUD operations. I already told to all the persons. So these CRUD options are very important. I don't know why they are not joined. Okay, but anyway, today now I will start the section. Okay, please who are joined, please listen carefully. Okay, these are very important. If you are good in this CRUD operations, then you can able simply understand the remaining things also. Okay. Okay. Uh, are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I will open IntelliJ ID. First, I will create one project. Okay. How to create a project? By using start.spring.io. Okay, this is the Spring initializer in which we can create a Spring Boot project. Select Maven, select Java. This is the stable version. Snapshot means unstable version. Click on user project. vcampus.user project. Demo for user project. Okay. Select jar file. Select the Java 17th version. We need to add web dependency, JPA dependency, and MySQL driver dependency. We are added 3 dependencies. Okay, we are adding 3 dependencies. Once click on this explore button. In this explore button, see, we are adding Spring Data JPA, Spring Web, and MySQL connector. Okay, this is the Spring Boot starter test is the default version. Okay, this is the default version. Click on download. After that, go to the project. Downloads. It will download zip file. Extract the zip file. Again go to downloads. Open this unzipped file. Okay, open this unzip file. Click on right click on that. Click on show more option. Open folder as IntelliJ ID Community Edition. Trust project. Open in. See, this load Maven load is very important. Click on that Maven load. Okay, after that only it will load the all Maven changes. Remove all those things. These all are not necessary. See, this is the project structure of Maven. Okay, this is the Maven project structure. Okay, I already explained. The first thing we need to do is here create application properties. First in MySQL workbench. In this MySQL workbench, create database user 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 db. Okay, create this database. Just refresh this page. See, the database is created. Right click on that, set as default schema. Okay, close this one. Okay, so we successfully created database. The second step, okay, second step is we need to connect our Java application to MySQL database by using application.properties. So here I simply copied the previous one. in this application dot properties I will copy the previous one. సో ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే మనం ఈ అప్లికేషన్ ప్రాపర్టీస్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకునే అవసరం లేదు. ఓకే, వీ నో నీడ్ టు రిమెంబర్ దిస్ అప్లికేషన్ ప్రాపర్టీస్. ఓకే, control V, just change this database name. By default it is user db, user data to user db. Change this database, that's it. So remaining this username and password is same. Okay, MySQL workbench username and password is same. By default this hibernate ddl, keep it in update. So remaining all are we already discussed. Okay, after that run this application. So this week is very important. Okay, so application connected successfully. Okay, okay, next create what are the basic project structure. First we need to create one package called model, either model or entity or domain, anything. Okay, second thing is repository. Third package name is service, package service. Fourth thing is controller. This controller, this is the basic Spring Boot application. Okay, సో ఒక ప్రాజెక్ట్లో మోడల్, రిపోజిటరీ, కంట్రోలర్, సర్వీస్ ఎక్కడ ఉందో అది ఒక బేసిక్ స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ అప్లికేషన్ అనేది. ఓకే, go to this entity class, model class, new class called user, create one class called user. So how to make a class as an entity class, how to make some specific class as an entity class?
@entity.
@entity. Second one is I need to mention the table name. Table name equal to users. Just import this annotation. That's it. Next we need to declare some fields. Private long id, private string first name, private string last name, private string email, private string password. So here I created 5 fields. Okay, here I created 5 fields. Here that enter id. What is the id represents what? If you annotated a particular field with @id, then what it is represents?
Primary key.
Primary key. Next, generated value strategy equal to generation type dot identity. That's it. So we simply created one field class, one model class. Next step is we need to go to the repository. Repository is not a class, it is an interface. Create user repository. User repository extends JPA repository. User comma long. What is this user? Why here I gave user? Cheppandi. Why here I gave user? Why here I use long?
So user is entity name and long is primary key in entity class.
Correct. User is the entity class. Okay, this is the user, and the primary key data type is long. So that's why here I gave long. Okay. that's it. It's your at the rate repository annotation is your wish. If you are at the rate repository is your wish. Okay, why here we are extending JPA repository? Why we are extending JPA repository means JPA repository contains some methods, and it also extends list CRUD repository and paging and sorting repository and external query repository. Okay, so list CRUD repository is extend CRUD repository. This CRUD repository have all those methods which are used mostly. So that's why we are using JPA repository. Okay, see, so that's it. So next one is service layer. In this service layer, I need to create one interface. User service. In this user service interface, we just declare these methods. Okay, we just declare this method. So మీకు ఇంకా కావాలంటే డైరెక్ట్గా ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ కూడా చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే, ఈ యూజర్ సర్వీస్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్లో మనం ఇంప్లిమెంట్ కూడా చేసుకోవచ్చు. బట్ we just declare these methods. Okay, create one sub package for service package. సర్వీస్ ప్యాకేజ్కి ఒక సబ్ ప్యాకేజ్ క్రియేట్ చేసి ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ అని క్రియేట్ చేయండి. ఇన్సైడ్ దిస్ ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాస్ క్రియేట్ ఏ వన్ క్లాస్ కాల్డ్ యూజర్ ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్. దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్ we need to this class implements this interface, implements this user service interface. So that's it. So we here your entity class and repository class is job is done. We focused on implementation class and controller class. ఓకే, ఈ ప్రాజెక్ట్ స్ట్రక్చర్లో మనకేంటంటే మెయిన్గా ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాస్. ఓకే, సర్వీస్ లేయర్ యూజ్ ఏంటి? వాట్ ఈస్ ద మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఆఫ్ ది సర్వీస్ లేయర్? చెప్పండి, వాట్ ఈస్ ద మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఆఫ్ ది సర్వీస్ లేయర్?
It holds the business logic.
Business logic it holds. Okay, that means in the service implementation layer it contains the main business logic. So we need to work on this implementation layer only. Okay, in this interface we declare this method. See here, public is the access modifier, user is the return type, create user. We are passing user arguments. Why we are passing these arguments? Why? Because we are changing user data. So that's it. Why here return type is user? Why here return type is user means we are creating user data. That means the output is user data. So that's why here we will give user output. Here simply import to that user class. Next, go to this related problem, implement that methods. So that's it. The service layer is depends on which layer? Service layer is depends on which layer? Service layer is depends on which layer? Repository layer. So we need to auto-write this repository layer. Okay, by using this repository layer, inside repository layer we have same method. Okay, save that entity name is user. That's it. So implementation part is completed. So చూడండి, ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే inside this user repository. Okay, inside this user repository, list CRUD repository action, CRUD repository. See, we have same method. So I need to use this same method. Okay, that's why I am importing this user repository. Okay, why here I am importing user repository? Why here I am injecting user repository? User repository is the child class of CRUD repository. See, user repository is the child class of CRUD repository. And another thing is child class, child interface is able to acquiring properties from parent class. That's why ఆ CRUD repository ఉన్న మెథడ్స్ అన్ని యూజర్ రిపోజిటరీ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ అనేది యూజ్ చేసుకోగలదు. సో దట్స్ వై హియర్ ఐఎమ్ ఇంజెక్టింగ్ user repository interface. Okay, next, after implementation layer we need to go to the controller layer. New package user controller. Yeah. New package controller. Next, click on new class user controller. Control layer is depends on which layer? Control layer is depends on which layer? చెప్పండి. Controller layer is depends on which layer?
Service layer.
Service layer. So we need to inject service layer. Private user service. User service. User service. Use @autovide. Okay. Here for the controller class, which class will use? Which annotation we will need to use? @REST controller. @REST controller. Why @REST controller means it gives it the combination of @controller and @response body. And another annotation is request mapping. Use users. Okay, this is the request mapping. That means inside this is the class level annotation. Okay, class level annotation, we no need to mention this URL for in every method. Okay, we no need to mention this URL every method. So that is the request mapping. Next, public user is the return type, but here I want return type is in HTTP status codes. Okay, నాకు ఏంటంటే HTTP status codes లా నాకు కావాలి. So that's why here the return type is response entity. See, response entity is present in this package, HTTP package, and the another thing is it is the generic type. It is the generic type. In the generic we pass that user class. Next, save user. Pass the arguments user. This class is depends on service class. So user service dot create user. See, in this user service class we have create user method is presently available. So we are calling that method, passing this entity. Import this class. See, it is present in vcampus user project dot model package. That's it. Next, user created. So what we created, that created user will save in this variable. So we need to call that method. Return new response entity. We need to pass this variable here. Created. మనకి రెస్పాన్స్ ఎంటిటీ అనేది కావాలి కదా. రెస్పాన్స్ ఎంటిటీ అంటే ఈ పోస్ట్ మ్యాన్ ఎవ్రీ టైమ్ హియర్ వీఆర్ గెటింగ్ 200. ఓకే, ఐ నీడ్ టు చేంజ్ దిస్ రెస్పాన్స్ ఎంటిటీ. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మనకి HTTP స్టేటస్ కోర్స్లో 201 అంటే క్రియేటెడ్, బట్ వితౌట్ దిస్ రెస్పాన్స్ ఎంటిటీ వీఆర్ నాట్ గివింగ్ దట్, వీఆర్ అనేబుల్ టు గివ్ దట్ రెస్పాన్స్. క్రియేటెడ్ కామా HTTP స్టేటస్ కోర్స్ క్రియేటెడ్. Import class. Use which to create a resource, which method we will use? To create a resource, which method we will use?
Post mapping.
Post map. Slash create is the URL. HTTP use this response status annotation. This annotation will give in postman, it will give 201 created. అదేంటంటే మనం ఆ యానోటేషన్ యూజ్ చేస్తే రెస్పాన్స్ అనేది ప్రాపర్గా వస్తుంది. దట్స్ ఇట్. సో నౌ వీఆర్ గెట్టింగ్ JSON object. So who will convert JSON object to Java object? At the rate request body. At the rate request body convert JSON object to Java object. That's it. Stop the application. Here HTTP create. So this is the URL. Run the application. Application started. Okay, go to the postman, click on that new page, use post, paste that URL here, go to the body, select raw JSON. Here what are the fields? First name, last name, email, password. So first name Surya, last name M, email surya@mail.com. Next password Surya123. So click on beautify, click on send this request. Stop the application and rerun this application. So application started on port 8080. Click on send. Did not send request. So here see, here I did some mistake. That's it. Why you are getting this issue? Cannot invoke com.vcampus.21 user service. Okay. Here we didn't use @service annotation. Okay, so that's why we are getting that issue. Run this application. Application started. Send. This user service is null. user service.
సార్ మోడల్ క్లాస్ లో గెటర్ సెటర్స్ క్రియేట్ చేశారు సార్.
Correct. Model getter steps. So right click on that, generate setters, ID, first name, last name, email, password.
Lombok dependencies use.
So here recently the Lombok is a little bit updated. Okay, so that's why here we are facing some issues. Okay, once it's fixed I will tell how to use Lombok annotation. Okay, Lombok is recently updated, and in this IntelliJ only it will be available. We no need to add any dependency. I will check and I will give examples on that also.
Okay.
Click on send. See, first data is inserted. For example, second data, Srinu, last name is G, Srinu, last name is @123. So that's it. Click on send. So two data are inserted. Refresh this page. Click on tables, users, see. Two data are available. Okay. Now, second thing is we will use. We will get all the data. I will create third one also. Trinad G Trinad@gmail.com 123. So three records I created. So second method is get mapping. Okay, second method is get mapping. Second, first go to user service. I want to retrieve all the data. Then what is the return type? I want to retrieve all the records. Then what is the return type?
List of users.
Correct. List of users. Okay. Next method is get all users. Okay. Here we are retrieving all the users. Okay. But we are not doing any modification. That's why we are not passing any parameters. Okay. Click on the users implementation layer. Implement that method. This layer is depends on user repository dot find all method. That's it. Find all is the method. It will check all the records is present or not. And the third layer is controller layer. What is the return type for get all? In controller layer, what is the return type? Public response entity. The return type is list of users. List of users. Get all data. Get all data. Get all users. ఇక్కడ method we can change కూడా చేసుకోవచ్చు. Get all data. Next, this layer is depends on service layer. So user service dot get all user methods. We are calling that method. Okay. After retrieving all these methods, we are storing in one variable. So list of user is equals to get data. Get all. This is the variable. Okay, ఇక్కడ ఏం చేసామంటే యూజర్ సర్వీస్ ఇస్ ద క్లాస్. ఓకే, యూజర్ సర్వీస్ ఇస్ ద ఇంటర్ఫేస్. ఇక్కడ మనం క్రియేట్ చేసాం కదా ఆ ఫీల్డ్ లో గెట్ ఆల్ యూజర్స్ అని ఉంది చూడండి. ఇన్ దట్ ఫీల్డ్ వీ హ్యావ్ గెట్ ఆల్ యూజర్స్. వీఆర్ కాలింగ్ దట్ మెథడ్ అండ్ సో నౌ వీఆర్ రిట్రీవింగ్ ఆల్ ది రికార్డ్స్. ఓకే, ఆల్ ది రికార్డ్స్ మనం ఆ 3 రికార్డ్స్ని రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకున్న తర్వాత ఈ వేరియబుల్లో మనం స్టోర్ చేస్తున్నాం. ఓకే, వీఆర్ స్టోరింగ్ దిస్ వేరియబుల్. నెక్స్ట్ రిటర్న్ న్యూ రెస్పాన్స్ ఎంటిటీ get all. We are printing that get all variable HTTP status okay. That's it. Why are we giving okay? See, if you create any resource, then only the output will be 201 created. So 201 created. Other than that, remaining all are okay only. At the rate get mapping all. So that's it. Just stop the application and rerun the application. Here the URL is HTTP localhost users hall. Users is the request URL which is a class level users class level annotation. All is the this URL. Okay, copy this URL. That's it. Click on send. Method not allowed. Why? Because here I am using post. Now we will get the response. See, here we are getting response as a list. ఇక్కడ square brackets చూడండి. We are getting the response as a list. Okay, first Surya, second Srinu, 3 Trinad. So that's it. If you want to retrieve a single record, then what should I do? Go to the service layer. The return type is user get user by id. Get user by id. Long id is the pass parameter. Why here I am using long id? Why here I am using long id?
Because inside of user entity you have a long, you will take a long.
Here we are retrieving the record. Okay, so the method name is get user by id. That means here we are retrieving the record. Okay, we are retrieving the record. So how we are retrieving the record? Get user by id. Okay, మనం ఒక ఐడి ద్వారా రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం. సో దట్స్ వై వీఆర్ పాసింగ్ దిస్ ఐడి. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ మనం ఒక యూజర్ని క్రియేట్ చేస్తున్నాం. దట్స్ వై హియర్ వీఆర్ ద parameter is user. Here based on the id we are retrieving the record. That's why we are passing parameter as a id. Here this is the data type. That's it. Next go to the implementation layer. Cursor, move on that cursor, click on implement methods. That's it. Service layer is depends on which layer? Service layer is depends on repository layer. User repository dot first. Here first we need to check whether the id is present or not. Okay, మనం రిట్రీవ్ చేయవలసిన ఐడి ప్రెసెంట్ గా ఉందో లేదో చెక్ చేయాలి. ఉంటే we can retrieve, otherwise we can throw the exception. I already discussed how to throw the exception. Dot find by id. See, find by id, pass the parameter id dot or else throw. ఒకవేళ ఐడి లేకపోతే create one exception, new resource not found exception. Resource not found, runtime exception. Exception ఏంటంటే యూజర్ నాట్ ఫౌండ్ అని చేయాలి. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈస్ ద implementation part. Next, controller class. This is also very simple. Public, here the return type is user only. Why? Because they are modifying the data response. It's a generic type, so inside the generic click on user. Get user. Here the method is get user. Parameter is long id. So this controller is depends on service layer. So inside this service layer we have method called get user by id. We need to call that method and pass this id argument. That's it. So after retrieving the data, we need to store the data in one variable. Okay, user, single user. We are storing the data in this variable, single user variable. Next, return new response entity. We need to pass this single user variable in this parenthesis, create http status dot okay. That's it. Click on @get mapping by id. Okay, we are retrieving the data by using this id. That's why we are passing this id. So I want to bind this URI template variable, this method argument and this URI template variable. Okay, then which method which annotation I will use? నాకేంటంటే I want to bind this method argument and this URI template variable. Okay, to retrieve that record. ఓకే, ఈ ఐడిలో ఉన్న రికార్డ్ని, ఈ ఐడిని నేను బైండ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా. అప్పుడు నేను ఏ అనోటేషన్ యూజ్ చేస్తాను?
@path variable.
@path mapping, path variable. Sorry. That's it. So get mapping is completed. Just stop and rerun the application. What is the URL? HTTP localhost. Which ID you want to retrieve, that ID name. That's it. I want to retrieve, see, these are the 3 records. I want to retrieve this second record. Click on 2. See, ID 2. If I want to retrieve the third record, ID 3. So like that we are retrieving the single record. And the third one is very important one and little confused one, that is put mapping. Here user update user, we need to pass 2 arguments. One is, first we need to retrieve the single record. Okay, మన అప్డేట్ ఎలా చేస్తాం? ఒక రికార్డ్ని రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకొని ఆ రికార్డ్ని అప్డేట్ చేస్తాం. రిట్రీవ్ చేయాలంటే we need to pass this argument long id. ఆ రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకున్న రికార్డ్ని we need to update. ఓకే, అప్డేట్ ని ఆ రికార్డ్ని అప్డేట్ చేస్తాం కాబట్టి here user. So successfully created 3 methods. Click on this, click on implement methods. This layer is depends on which layer? Service layer is depends on which layer? Cheppandi. Service layer is depends on which layer?
Repository layer.
Repository layer. So use that repository layer and dot next find by id. Find by id. First we need to check whether the id is present or nested. Second one, not return, whether the id is present or not. If it is present, we can retrieve. Otherwise we need to throw this error. To throw that error, we will use or else throw method. Okay, inside that create one exception, new runtime exception, user not found. If it is present, if the id is present, we need to store that id, user existing user. This is the variable name. So ఈ ఐడి ప్రెజెంట్ ఉంది, ప్రెజెంట్ అయితే మనం ఈ వేరియబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేసుకున్నాం. నెక్స్ట్ ఆ ప్రెజెంట్ అయిన ఐడికి ఇనిషియల్గా కొన్ని వాల్యూస్ ఉంటాయి. ఆ వాల్యూస్ మనం రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకొని ఆ వాల్యూస్కి మనం అప్డేట్ చేయాలి. ఓకే, we have to retrieve that values and we need to update that values. How we can retrieve? existing user dot ఇది set first name. సో ఒక ఈ ఈ వేరియబుల్కి మాకు ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ అనేది సెట్ చేసాం, అది యూజర్ డాట్ గెట్ ఫస్ట్ నేమ్. సో ఈ గెట్ ఫస్ట్ ని రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకొని దీనికి మనం ఈ న్యూ వాల్యూ అనేది న్యూ వాల్యూ. ఓకే, ఈ గెట్ ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ అనేది ముందు ఏంటి, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ థర్డ్ డాటా, థర్డ్ రికార్డ్ అనేది నేను రిట్రీవ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా. ఆ థర్డ్ రికార్డ్ని రిట్రీవ్ చేశాను, దానికి వేరే వాల్యూ అనేది సెట్ చేస్తున్నా. లైక్ దట్ సేమ్ ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ తర్వాత యూజర్ డాట్ గెట్ లాస్ట్ నేమ్. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ యూజర్ డాట్ సెట్ లాస్ట్ నేమ్. మనం దీంట్లో మనం పాస్ చేద్దాం. సరే, నెక్స్ట్ ఈమెయిల్ సేమ్ existing user dot set email user dot get email. Next existing user dot set password. Next user dot get password. ఓకే, అర్థమైంది కదా. ఫస్ట్ మనం ఆ ఐడి అనేది ఉందా లేదో చెక్ చేస్తున్నాం, ఉంటే ఈ వేరియబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేస్తాం, లేదు అంటే మనం ఈ ఎక్సెప్షన్ని త్రో చేస్తున్నాం, యూజర్ నాట్ ఫౌండ్ అనేది. సో స్టోర్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆ స్టోర్ చేసిన వేరియబుల్కి మనం ముందున్న వాల్యూస్ని రిట్రీవ్ చేసుకొని కొత్త వాల్యూస్ సెట్ చేస్తున్నాం. నెక్స్ట్ యూజర్ రిపోజిటరీ డాట్ సేవ్. మనం కొత్త వాల్యూ సెట్ చేసిన తర్వాత మళ్ళీ సేవ్ చేస్తున్నాం దేన్ని, ఈ వేరియబుల్ని. సో అంతే, రిటర్న్, దట్స్ ఇట్. సో లాజిక్ అనేది కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయింది. నెక్స్ట్ కంట్రోల్ లేయర్, పబ్లిక్ response entity is the status, its response entity is the generic type, so pass the user. Next update user data. What are the parameters? First we are retrieving the id. Next after retrieving we are updating the id, so pass two parameters. This controller is depends on service layer. So user service dot, in the user service we have a method called update user. Pass that updated user. First we are retrieving the id, second that user, that's it. సో ఆఫ్టర్ దట్ మన యూజర్ని అప్డేట్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఒక వేరియబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేసుకోవాలి, యూజర్ updated one. Next we need to return that updated one. Return new response entity updated one, comma http status. Okay, that is fine. అంతే. నెక్స్ట్ we will use @put mapping, pass the parameter. ఇక్కడ ఏంటి, to bind this id to this method argument we will use @path variable annotation. Next we can convert this, by default it gives JSON object, we can convert this JSON to Java. So to convert JSON object to Java object we will use @request body. So that's it. Here the URL is http localhost 8080 users and one is the URL template variable. Stop the application and rerun the application. Go to Postman, change to put mapping. I want to change the third third record. I want to change the third record. Instead of Trinath, I will change Vamsi G. Vamsi@gmail.com. Next, Vamsi. Click on Beautify. Just send. See, the third data is changed to Vamsi. If you want to clarify, get all. Get all. Click on send. See, first data is Surya, second data is Srinu, third data is Vamsi. Successfully, the data is updated. And the fourth one is delete mapping. Click on that. Click on wide delete user, and I want to delete based on the ID. Okay, so here pass the argument is the long ID. Implement method user repository delete by ID. This is the method. See, user repository dot delete by ID and ID. Or if you want to change the return type, click on okay, keep it on wide. Okay, next go to controller layer, public. Here the return type is just move to string. Okay, give method name is delete user. You want to delete by using ID, right? So pass the long ID. Service dot delete user is the method which is already available in this service interface. See, pass that ID. The return type is string, right? So it will expect output is user data deleted successfully. Direct delete mapping ID. So I want to bind this method argument and URI template variable at the rate path variable. That's it. Stop the application and rerun the application. So I want to delete that third record. Use delete. Here the return type is URL is this one. Copy this URL. Instead of 1, keep it 3. Send. See, user data deleted successfully. Go to get, click on all. See, here we get only 2 records. Third data is deleted. This is the CRUD operations. This is the CRUD operations. So, see, నేను ఎన్నిసార్లు చెప్పినా మీకు ఎక్కడో ఒక దగ్గర డౌట్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ బెటర్ టు ప్రాక్టీస్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్. ఓకే, ఇది చెప్పేటప్పుడు ఈజీగా ఉంటుంది కానీ కొన్నిసార్లు అడిగేటప్పుడు మీరే కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అయిపోద్ది. కంట్రోలర్ డాటా దేని మీద డిపెండ్ అవుద్ది? Controller layer is depends on which layer?
Service layer.
Controller data is depends on service layer, and service layer is depends on which layer? Repository layer. సో నేనేంటంటే ఈ డాటా అనేది మీరు ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మీకు ఇప్పుడు జిప్ ఫైల్లో చేసి వెయిట్ ఐ విల్ సెండ్ దిస్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. సో దీన్ని చూసి మీరు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయండి. ఓకేనా? సో దీన్ని మీకు ఇప్పుడు షేర్ చేస్తా. వెయిట్, దిస్ చార్ట్, attach the files. See, I shared this project. Please practice. Okay, tomorrow onwards I will start some more concepts. నేను మిగతా కాన్సెప్ట్స్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను. సో ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మీకు కరెక్ట్గా అర్థమైతేనే మీరు రిమైనింగ్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ అనేది ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయగలరు. అదర్వైజ్ యూ కాంట్. ఇంకా మహా అయితే ఇంకొక 15 days ఉంది కోర్స్. దట్స్ ఇట్. సో ట్రై టు కవర్ దిస్ టాపిక్. క్రడ్ ఆపరేషన్స్ అంటే బేసిక్. దీని తర్వాత ఇంకొక 5 టాపిక్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఆ 5 టాపిక్స్ తర్వాత స్ప్రింగ్ ఎంవిసి, మైక్రో సర్వీసెస్, ఆ 2 బేసిక్ లెవెల్లో చెప్తాను అంతే. ఓకేనా? ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ డౌట్స్ ఆస్క్ మీ, అదర్వైజ్ లీవ్ ఇట్. Okay, I will